On the morning of September 10th, 1858, in St. Mary Parish, Louisiana, a housemaid discovered her master's mutilated body in his bedroom. Blood had soaked through the mattress and pooled on the hardwood floor. Between his legs, where manhood once was, there remained only a gaping wound and the rusty smell of death. Before noon, 4 more bodies were found across 3 neighboring plantations, all white men, all wealthy, all castrated before dying, all murdered within 7 consecutive nights by the same pair of hands. Hands that picked cotton, cooked meals, and endured 156 sexual assaults over 3 years. Her name was Delilah. She was 28 years old, and she had decided that if the law would not protect her, she would become her own justice. This story does not begin with revenge. It begins 10 years earlier, in 1848, when beauty became a curse. At 18 years old, Delilah was purchased at the New Orleans slave auction on Charter Street by Master Bogard Whitmore III for $1,800, 3 times the price of an average field hand. The reason was brutally simple. She was beautiful, tall with high cheekbones and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom, the kind of beauty that made white men stop mid-sentence. Her mother, sold away when Delilah was 12, had once whispered a terrible truth. Pretty slave girls don't pick cotton, baby. They suffer different. She had been right. Riverside Hall Plantation sprawled across 3,400 acres of Louisiana's richest soil. 200 enslaved people worked the fields that produced 800 bales of cotton annually, each bale worth $50. King Cotton ruled, and men like Whitmore wore crowns built on black backs. The big house stood 3 stories tall, white columns gleaming under the merciless sun, magnolia trees lining the drive. Slave quarters, 40 cramped cabins sat half a mile behind, far enough that screams would not disturb white sleep. Delilah's job was house servant. She cooked, cleaned, served meals, and attended Mistress Prudence Whitmore's every whim. But within 3 weeks of her arrival, Master Whitmore visited her cabin after midnight. She was still a virgin. She would not be by dawn. "Don't fight," he whispered, whiskey breath hot against her face. "Makes it worse." She learned quickly. Resistance earned whippings. Submission earned survival. But Whitmore did not keep her to himself. Every Friday evening, 5 men gathered at Riverside Hall for dinner and business. Discussions about cotton prices, slave management, and crop yields. They were Louisiana's elite, bound by wealth and shared depravity. Bogard Whitmore III, 52, owner of Riverside Hall, diabetic, sadistic, personally branded 63 slaves, kept ledgers tracking which women were most fertile. Montgomery Caldwell, 48, sugar planter, widowed twice, both wives died mysteriously, preferred young girls. After dinner, when bourbon flowed and cigars were lit, one of them would request a slave woman, usually Delilah. She was passed between them like property. The first time all 5 used her in one night, she was 19. She bled for 3 days afterward. No one cared. This continued for 3 years, 156 times by Delilah's count. She kept track with notches carved under her cabin floorboard. Each notch was a promise she would remember. In June 1858, suffocating heat blanketed Louisiana. Delilah realized she was pregnant again, her 3rd time in 10 years. The first 2 pregnancies ended in forced abortions by Dr. Peeton, no anesthesia. "Can't have bastards cluttering up the quarters," Whitmore had said. This time, the baby held on. By July, her belly showed. Mistress Prudence noticed first. "You're breeding," she said coldly. When Whitmore saw, his face darkened. "Tomorrow at dawn, 100 lashes at the whipping post. Let every slave see what happens to women who spread their legs." On August 2nd, all 200 slaves were forced to watch. Delilah's wrists were secured to the iron rings. The bullwhip cracked. By the 73rd lash, she felt the sharp tearing in her belly. Blood poured down her legs. Her third child died while she hung from the post, died to the count of lashes, died while 5 men watched and laughed. Problem solved, Whitmore said. Something inside Delilah died that day. Not hope, but fear. Fear was replaced by cold clarity. She would kill them, all 5. She had advantages they never suspected: access to their homes, knowledge of their routines, and a mind sharper than they imagined. She had secretly learned to read, studied Peyton's medical texts, and practiced anatomy. She stole a 10-inch butcher knife and hid it under her floorboard. Her plan: 1 per night, 7 nights, with gaps to avoid patterns. Method: castration first, symbolic and fatal. She would unmake the part they used to violate her. September 3rd, Jacob Blackwood. The overseer drank himself unconscious every Saturday in the barn. Delilah entered silently, gagged him with a rag, pinned him down, and castrated him with surgical precision learned from Peyton's books. She sat and watched him bleed out for 12 minutes. "This is for my first baby, my second, my third." 1 down. September 5th, Cornelius Rutherford. The traitor slept heavily in the guest room. Delilah tied him to the bed, castrated him, and let him bleed for 23 minutes, matching the time his wagon took his 5-year-old son away forever. 2 down. September 6th, Dr. Thaddeus Peyton. In his unlocked medical office, Delilah used his own scalpels to mimic his experiments: castration without anesthesia, then a cut to the femoral artery. "You said we felt less pain. Feel this." 3 down. Panic swept the parish. Sheriff Johnson declared martial law, but Delilah continued. September 7th, Montgomery Caldwell. She poisoned his wine with oleander extract, castrated him while he lay helpless, then suffocated him with a pillow. 4 down. September 8th, Bogard Whittemore III. Guards watched his study door, but Delilah used a hidden servant's passage behind the wardrobe. She bound him to his own bed, showed him the jar containing the preserved organs of his 4 friends, and made him suffer for 40 minutes. Slow, deliberate cuts mirroring 10 years of agony. You created this monster. 5 down. By morning, Whitmore was found. The parish was in terror. Sheriff Johnson knew it was Delilah, but had no proof. Slaves closed ranks. No one betrayed her. On September 15th, a sham trial convicted her in 7 minutes. She stood and spoke her final words. "You call me murderer, but for 10 years these 5 men raped me 156 times. I counted. 3 pregnancies, 3 dead babies. Your laws offered no protection. I became my own justice. Hang me if you must, but know this: there are more like me, many more, and we remember everything." On September 22nd, 1858, she walked to the gallows with her head high. Before the hood fell, she said, "To my brothers and sisters in chains, remember we are human. We can fight. Freedom is worth any price. To the white people watching, sleep lightly. There are more like me. My name is Delilah. I killed 5 demons. I die free." The trapdoor opened. She died instantly. Her body hung for 3 days as a warning, but the warning backfired. That night, secret spirituals spread. Sister Delilah brought the house down. 5 pillars fell before her might. Within months, more masters died mysteriously. Fear gripped the South. Delilah's unmarked grave lies in Franklin Cemetery, but in 2018, a historical marker was placed near the execution site. September 22nd, 1858. A woman known as Delilah was executed for killing 5 men who repeatedly raped her. Her final words, "I die free," became a rallying cry for generations. She lived 28 years. She avenged 156 violations. She died free, and she was never forgotten. What if the history books left out the women who fought back? What if the real monsters weren't the ones who died, but the ones who made the laws that protected them? And what if, right now, someone, somewhere, is carving another notch under their floorboard, waiting for the right moment? Leave a comment. Do you believe her rage was justified? And which part of this story shook you the most? Because once you know the truth, you can never unknow it.